Welcome back to SecretSpool's Twisted Tale Wednesday. I'm Mara, and tonight's story begins with something simple, something harmless. A mirror. A lovely antique mirror that should have been nothing more than a small delight in someone's new apartment. But some objects don't just reflect what's in front of them. They reflect what waits behind the glass. And some stories don't move quickly toward fear. They let it gather slowly, patiently, until it fills the room with a feeling you can't name. Settle in. Tonight's tale asks one quiet question. What happens when your reflection has been waiting longer than you've been alive? Let's begin. When I moved into my apartment a month ago, I wasn't expecting anything remarkable. It wasn't a glamorous place, just a small, cozy space where the sunlight hit the floorboards in a warm stripe during the morning hours. Boxes still lined the walls, unopened, holding pieces of a life I hadn't yet rearranged into something that felt like home. What I needed most was furniture. Something to make the emptiness seem intentional rather than transitional. For weeks, I wandered every flea market I could find. I browsed online listings until midnight, scrolling through offerings that were either wildly overpriced or wildly questionable. I saw sofas with shredded fabric, tables missing legs, dressers painted neon colors as though someone had been trying to punish them. I started joking to myself that maybe minimalism wasn't a choice. It was a budget. But jokes didn't make the apartment feel any less empty. Then, one morning at a market I almost skipped, I saw something that stopped me. A single table with only one item placed neatly at its center. A mirror, not a modern one, not a cheap temporary piece. This mirror had an ornate antique frame carved with vines, leaves, and small flourishes that looked almost alive. It felt like it didn't belong in the market at all. It looked like it belonged in a place where chandeliers hung from ceilings and footsteps echoed down marble halls. When I bent down to look at the price tag, I thought I misread it. For free! The words didn't match the object in front of me. I checked the frame for cracks, the glass for distortions, the backing for signs of rot or pests. Nothing. It was flawless. The kind of mirror people bid on at auctions, not give away in the middle of a crowded marketplace. I should have felt suspicious. Instead, I felt lucky. The young man behind the table watched me with a strange tension in his shoulders. His eyes drifted anywhere but my face, as though embarrassed or relieved. When I told him I'd take the mirror, he nodded almost too quickly, like someone finally completing a difficult task. There was something in his expression, guilt maybe, that brushed against my instincts. But I ignored it. People give away strange things for stranger reasons. I thanked him, carried the mirror home, and didn't look back. Once home, I hung it carefully on the hallway wall. Sunlight pooled around it in the afternoons and made the frame glow like old gold. Every morning, I found myself pausing to look at it longer than necessary. Something about the way it framed me made my reflection seem more intentional, more composed. The mirror didn't change how I looked, but it made me feel curated, like I belonged in my own space for the first time. The first odd moment came quietly. I lifted my hand to brush my hair, and for the faintest moment, my reflection lagged, just a blink of hesitation. The way a video might pause if the connection stutters. I stared at the glass, waiting for the familiar shape to mimic me again. After a few seconds, the reflection caught up. I laughed to myself. Mirrors don't glitch. brains do. But the next morning, it happened again, and the next. Each time, my reflection hesitated a little longer, as though it were waking up slower than I was. At first, I blamed sleepiness, poor lighting, shadows playing tricks. But unease started to press at me softly from beneath my ribs. Something wasn't right. One morning, as I reached for my keys, I froze mid-step because my reflection didn't move at all. My breath stuck in my throat as the reflection slowly turned its head toward me. It moved with deliberate care, not mirroring my posture, but studying it, studying me. Then it smiled, a soft, apologetic expression that felt achingly human and completely unfamiliar on my face. The smile didn't belong to me. It belonged to someone who had been waiting. Before I could step back, its hand rose toward the glass, and for a moment, I thought it was simply mimicking a gesture it had chosen. But the glass rippled. The fingertips pressed through as if the mirror were made of water. Then nails, my nails, but sharpened with intent, clamped around my wrist. I tried to scream, but the sound collapsed inside my chest. With a sudden yank, I was pulled forward, my whole body sucked into the cold, suffocating space behind the frame. Inside the mirror, there was no floor, no ceiling, no air, just a suffocating stillness that pressed against my bones. I felt myself locked into a rigid posture, unable to move beyond the narrow boundaries of reflection. Outside, standing in my place, was a man in his 30s wearing my face like a borrowed mask. He adjusted his stance, testing my body with a detached familiarity, then glanced at me trapped inside the glass. "I'm sorry," he whispered. His voice sounded like someone apologizing for a choice they had already justified long ago. He lifted the mirror with unsettling ease and carried it outside. My surroundings blurred as I moved with him, forced to match his motions perfectly. He placed the mirror on the ground near the sidewalk and taped a small note to the frame. "For free." Then he walked away, wearing my life, my clothes, my freedom, while I stared helplessly from behind the glass. Dozens of people passed by, completely unaware of the person behind the surface. They adjusted their hats, fixed their makeup, checked their hair. None of them saw me. My panic only grew with each passing moment. Whenever they lifted their hand or turned their head, my body jerked in perfect sync. I wasn't just trapped. I was puppeted by strangers who didn't know I existed. Eventually, a young man stopped, admiring the frame with genuine delight. He lifted the mirror carefully and carried it home. From my cold vantage point, I watched him settle into his daily routines. He tried on clothes, practiced his smile before dates, rehearsed conversations under his breath. In the quiet moments, I studied the way he looked at himself, unaware that another pair of eyes studied him too. Then, one afternoon, as he leaned close to inspect a small earring, I focused every ounce of desperate willpower on a single command: move. My finger twitched, barely, but it was mine. He saw it. His face drained, confusion twisting his features. He shook his head and muttered something to himself, but he kept glancing back at the mirror throughout the day, each time looking more unsettled. Over the next week, I reclaimed more of myself. A slight tilt of the head, a blink that came a fraction too late, a breath not quite matching his. He noticed every inconsistency. And one morning, unable to contain the surge of freedom inside me, I smiled. A wide, unnatural grin that stretched far past what human muscles were meant to do. He stumbled backward, terror in his eyes, and fled the room. Eventually, he returned. Fear can only keep someone away for so long when they need answers. He approached cautiously, studying my now normal reflection, convincing himself he had imagined everything. But the moment he stepped close enough, I reached out. My hand pierced the boundary, clamping onto his arm. His scream was sharp, desperate. With a final, wrenching pull, I dragged him inside and stepped out into the world once more. The air tasted like freedom. His face stared back at me from behind the glass, mirroring my guilt. I whispered, "I'm sorry," placed the mirror outside his apartment, and wrote a familiar note. For free. Some stories end with justice, some end with closure, and some end exactly where they began. If you ever see a mirror offered for free, especially one far too exquisite to be forgotten on a sidewalk, maybe keep walking. Some bargains take more than they give. Thanks for joining me for tonight's Twisted Tale Wednesday. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and maybe take one last look at your reflection, just to be sure it's really you. I'll see you next time.